Welcome to Doom Debates. Today I've got two special guests, Sam Kirchner and Remmelt Ellen from StopAI. It's a new up-and-coming movement. The StopAI movement, you guys are making a number of demands, but in a nutshell, you guys want governments to permanently ban AGI development, correct?
Plus deepfake tech, plus a bunch of stuff that supports the development of these kind of toxic technologies. So restrictions on compute, things like that.
And you're getting a lot of attention for your willingness to get arrested. So we saw this pic of you guys in handcuffs. I think it was only Sam in handcuffs, right?
Correct.
And this was in front of OpenAI's San Francisco office. So your organization is pretty new, and you're telling me that there's also a third co-founder who's anonymous. Is that right?
Correct. We have two other sort of co-founders. One is half foot in, half foot out, and the fourth member, if you will, is anonymous and works stay that way.
And you guys have built up a 50-person Discord so far?
Yeah, roughly.
Great. And how are you doing on funding?
We need a lot of help with funding. We mostly have a GoFundMe, we have a crypto wallet, Kickstarter, and a Patreon, but we've mostly relied on a few donations on GoFundMe.
All right. So your plan was you go to the San Francisco OpenAI headquarters, you stand in front of the gate, and this is like the main entrance gate. So when OpenAI employees are trying to just come into the building, you're basically saying you can't come in, and you just kind of move your body in front of them where they try to come in. So like technically the door is still unlocked, but you're just physically not letting them come into their office, correct?
Correct. And they were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe that someone would have the audacity to, stop them from trying to build something that's going to kill us all. They just want to build this thing in peace, be left alone.
What about the possibility that they would just go through the back entrance? Did you have a plan for that?
They do have a bunch of other entrances because they share that office space. That building that they are in is flooded against a bunch of other businesses. So they have many different entrances to come and go from. I mean, our goal is actually to block all of them. But I was arrested for a fire code violation. And we're going to try and block every entrance. It's obviously still a fire code violation, but that is actually a way we could stop the development now, is if we block every single entrance.
You made a plan that you were going to assemble on the spot a group of people, and then you guys would divide up responsibility, right? So maybe you would get the front entrance, other people would get the back entrance. And the idea was to just physically use your bodies to block OpenAI employees from coming in. But you didn't get to the point where you found somebody else who wanted to help you. So the whole time you only had your body in front of one entrance, correct?
It's the start, basically.
Correct.
This is the first action to building up to what you just said.
Yeah, and it's...
Okay. So I'm just curious. I mean, this is kind of interesting, right? I mean, look, it's bold, right? I don't know if I would personally take this approach, but right now I'm just in the mindset of curiosity. And I think me and my viewers just want to know, okay, so how did this go down? So you put your body in the front gate, the employees came in. Did a lot of employees just be like, okay, weirdo, but then successfully go around you? Is that how a lot of people came to work that day?
Yeah, more or less. The security did a good job of ushering people to different entrances. Everyone was pretty civil. There wasn't any sort of fight or anything, but we didn't really get a chance to actually try what we were trying to accomplish because I was arrested within an hour of sitting there. And to pull off our plan, we really needed a few days. We needed a few days before getting arrested, and that's what I expected would happen because I wasn't arrested previously for 5 hours. They left me alone with 5 hours.
So you came to OpenAI on a Tuesday, and your plan was to block the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and by Thursday or Friday, you just wanted multiple people at every entrance. You said you brought food. Did you bring a sleeping bag?
Yeah, it was Tuesday. And yes, I brought a sleeping bag and a tent and food for 4 days. I had the full shebang and someone to help carry more supplies. We were prepared to be there for a while.
So OpenAI security didn't try to move you, but they called the cops, and the cops came in with a pair of handcuffs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where are you guys physically based?
I'm in San Francisco. Sam's in San Francisco. I'm in Hong Kong.
So you didn't have to travel far to do these protests. You're kind of ready to strike at any time, huh?
Well, I did move here to do these protests. Idea is to be in San Francisco.
Where'd you move here from?
Seattle, Washington. But the idea is basically, Seattle is a tech hub, but the idea is that anything we do protest-wise will have exponentially more of a sort of attention output if we're here in San Francisco versus anywhere else. Because more media attention, more social media attention, all.
Remmelt, are you going to move to San Francisco?
Part of me would like to, but unfortunately I have family responsibilities, so I'm kind of stuck here. So what I'm actually doing is running the back end. So I mentioned that I'm part of this program called a Safety Camp. We've been running that program for 5 years, and we're pivoting in part to supporting StopAI, PauseAI projects. So what I'm going to do now with anonymous colleagues is start a video campaign to actually kind of give background pressure to support Sam, meaning that we'll just interview lots of people, encourage lots of people to send in video saying why they think companies like OpenAI should actually stop scaling the development of these of large everything for everyone models. So that's kind of the background pressure, funding, things like that. That's something I'll take care of. Having said that, I do actually want to be part of these protests. I think it's very important for co-founders of an activist organization to actually put the skin in the game. I think it's just the situation I'm in right now. I can't do that right now. So here I am actually just supporting Sam in any way I can.
Cool. Sam, I just want to finish playing through the story here. You do the protest. The cops come in. They threaten you that they're going to give you a citation for, what were they going to charge you with again?
They charged me with blocking entrances. And I just want to make clear sort of what our plan is here. So it is a misdemeanor what I was charged for, but the plan is we're going back and repeating this action on the 21st of October, and we're just going to keep doing it until we're held on remand, which means held in jail until the trial date. And then when the trial comes, the plan is to plead the necessity defense and basically say that the actions we took are necessary and just because we're trying to raise awareness that these companies are going to kill everyone and or take all of our jobs. There's been some success with that in climate movements, blocking roads and entrances to companies, and we're hoping to have the same success.
What we're not trying to do is to be popular. We're not trying to be a popular movement. This is not about us kind of showing like, we're just kind of going along with the law. We're just making it easy for everyone. We're actually making it uncomfortable for other people. Like right now, the focus is on OpenAI employees and the fact that they continue to work at an organization that's causing increasing harms and is willing to risk extinction. But that means that we're actually going to get in people's way.
I'm sympathetic to that, a high-level idea of that. I just want to say the idea that if you're currently working on AI, you're currently feeling way too comfortable, way too normalized. I'm on the same page as you guys there, right? I don't want to comment on what I think about your exact tactics, right? Because I have some conflicts there. I have some potential misgivings, but I want to let you guys say your piece.
We'll be curious, to be honest. Later in the conversation, we can touch upon it.
So Sam, on September 12th, you went to a secondary OpenAI office, and on September 24th, you went to their main OpenAI San Francisco headquarters. Let's go back to September 12th. On the morning of September 12th, you say, I'm going to go to OpenAI and I'm going to put caution tape on the doors. But then what actually happens is you did that for a little bit, and it seems like they didn't care that much. They went around it. They used a different entrance. The cops didn't come. And so then you said, let's kick it up a notch. Let's go into the street and block traffic, correct?
Pretty much. I brought Diamond and John. The original plan was to just do a sit-in in front of 151 3rd Street's entrance. And we did actually sort of caution tape their front doors, but that didn't really get out there, publish that very well. And then we kind of got sick of that. And we were like, let's just go sit in the street.
Okay, so it was just you two, and you get in the middle of the road near OpenAI's office, and you just start blocking every single car, even like random cars that weren't occupied by AI engineers. You just blocked them anyway?
Yes.
So a car is coming in. It's driven by a random person. They see that you and John are standing there. Are you guys holding like a banner? Is it just your bodies in the street? What's going on?
We had a sign that said, Stop AI, and we were sitting physically. We were blocking 2 lanes of traffic. We were blocking northbound on 3rd Street.
Okay. When the cars saw that you were blocking the road, were they able to kind of make a U-turn or back away?
Most of them tried to within inches of us, around us. A lot of people were, admittedly angry at us. But there were the rare few said we support what you're doing. And, they came up to us and said, we really appreciate what you're doing. It was actually by the grace of a stranger that the picture that went viral of that protest even got out there. because our photographer left before we got arrested. So the picture that went viral was actually just thanks to some stranger that took a picture and posted it online.
Okay, so 3rd Street, where OpenAI is a reasonably big street. And so you start getting cars backed up in the direction that you're protesting. Is that right? And then how long did that last? Like a few minutes before the cops came?
We were there for half an hour before the cops
So,
put handcuffs and got us out of the road. It took 15 minutes from when we sat down until the first cop arrived on a motorcycle. And then it took about another 15 minutes until we were finally taken away.
So 15 minutes into you guys blocking traffic, a cop comes in on a motorcycle and he's like, looks like we got a situation here. I could try to arrest these guys, but that seems extreme. So I'm just going to start routing traffic around these guys. Like I'm going to divert the street. That's what the first cop did.
Pretty much. Yep. He wanted to wait until a sergeant showed up. Sergeant was the one who arrested us.
Is it because he felt like he
just
needed
waiting
backup to arrest you? Because you guys were 2 guys and you didn't know if you were armed, or what do you think his thought process was?
Probably. I have no idea what his thought process was, but I think they just, because it was sort of a novel thing, wanted to have their superior final call on whether or not to arrest us on the spot. I don't know.
Fascinating. So 15 minutes in, you know, traffic starts getting routed around while he's waiting for his backup, waiting for his sergeant. Was there a car basically waiting for 15, 20, 25 minutes before it was able to get through?
They were pretty able to get around us. They went right. We were basically on the north side of an intersection, and they just took the northbound traffic and turned it right eastbound.
Ah, okay, interesting. Now, the cop comes on his motorcycle. He redirects traffic around you guys. His sergeant comes. Did multiple other cops come?
Yeah. So the first guy that showed up was on a motorcycle, and then 5 minutes after, more cops showed up. And eventually there's a picture. I mean, 10 cops were surrounding us, just kind of standing around for the sergeant to show up. And the sergeant showed.
Were they eating donuts?
They take us away. No, they weren't eating donuts, but they were very cordial. And they did actually say, like, yeah, we get it. Like, you're trying to prevent Terminator. And then we said, yeah, well, the problem with Terminator is, like, the Terminator is never going to miss. So your families are all in danger. And if you guys really understood this issue, you'd be sitting here with us. And yeah, it was a cordial encounter. Some person on Twitter took, like, the famous viral photo of, like, 10 cops standing around us and zoomed in on, like, the one cop smiling. And he said, like, the cops can't even believe it's real.
Okay. So you got the 10 cops standing around. Some of them totally understand what you're doing. They're being cordial. But ultimately, they hit you with 3 misdemeanor charges, right? So how did it become 3 charges? What were the charges?
You're going to have to forgive me here. I'm still talking with the lawyer, trying to figure out what the charges are. I mean, they're listed on a piece of paper, but they're just numbers. The problem is that their handwriting's not very clear, so I have to go look in the system. One is basically just blocking traffic. The other one was, like, panhandling, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they were like, oh, you're soliciting something while in the street. Those were the only 2 I know.
So you said you got 3 misdemeanor charges from September 12th, and you've got 1 misdemeanor charge for blocking the entrance on September 24th. If these misdemeanor charges keep piling up, what happens? What's the next step? You currently have a court date, is that right?
Correct. Court dates. There was one on October 15th at 9 a.m. and one on October 24th at 9 a.m.
So Sam, when you go to your court date, in a worst case scenario, is there any possibility of, like, a year of jail time? It's got to be less than a year, right? Maybe like weeks, months. What's the worst case scenario?
I think from adding just preliminary research on each offense, yeah, it could be a year or more. I don't really care what the consequences are here, even if pleading the necessity offense goes poorly, because I just think people have to do what we're doing now. Like, we are running into potentially building AGI extremely soon. And once you build that, you hand over control, and at that point, you're sure your future extinction, or everyone's job gets taken. So, I mean, people who don't do what we're doing, I think are crazy. The problem is, like, we have to stop this now. And if blocking entrances is what you have to do, then that's what we're going to do. Even if it results in us losing, I hope we don't, and I hope we do win the necessity defense, and we are basically allowed to continue doing it. I don't know if that's what will happen or not. Someone has to do something. Someone has to do something now.
So just to repeat what I'm hearing, if the judge were to sentence you right now for, let's say, 6 months in jail for your misdemeanors, you would still think that you did the right thing, you played the right strategy just because it's so urgent that there's really no choice, correct?
Exactly.
What about the argument that like you decided spur of the moment on September 12th? You just told me that it wasn't even your original plan to block traffic, but blocking traffic is why you got that misdemeanor.
No.
So isn't it kind of weird that you're saying it's such a great action even when you kind of thought of it on the spot?
That's not quite correct. We did have the backup plan to go sit in the road if we didn't get enough attention from just blocking the entrances. That was our backup plan. And we had that original plan in the backup plan for about a week or two. So it wasn't spur of the moment like you made it sound.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you guys see yourselves as doing classic civil disobedience, just like Martin Luther King and Gandhi. Is that right?
Yes.
Similar.
And
yes.
it seems like your strategy is going to work if and only if the jails start getting piled up with these kind of activists. So, going to jail is no problem because it's part of a strategy in some sense, right?
Let me try and create a bit of an overview in terms of how I'm thinking about this. There are multiple points at which we're activating people to be part of this and getting people to think about the risks involved with these AI corporations continuing to develop AI. So one is just Sam just standing there saying like, shit, guys, I'm going to be here because I care about this shit. And it's weird that everyone just kind of like standing around and saying like, yeah, I'll just let it happen. So Sam's actually taking that action and people see it and they're saying like, wait, actually, I should rethink this, which includes OpenAI employees. I want to reach out to more OpenAI employees for various tactics. And this is one of them. So that's step one. The other step is through this, we will encourage other people to join. So some people might not get arrested, some people will. Those hardcore people who get arrested kind of act as an example of like, I'm willing to sacrifice some things in my life. I'm willing to get arrested in order to do this. Okay, so then there's two things happening here. One is the media gets onto this. The media kind of start sharing this, saying like, hey, wait, what's happening with these people? Start interviewing us. We can start talking more about our concerns. We can start setting demands in terms of what we want these AI companies to restrict. We want governments to act, how we can collaborate together with other citizen groups to restrict these AI corporations. And the other thing is, yes, like Sam can actually go to trial, plead the necessity defense. And that's part of that overall strategy of saying like, guys, we're doing this for a reason. Like Sam mentioned, we had a backup plan 1 week beforehand saying like, okay, this is not a way that we can actually kind of start kind of raising awareness. All right, we'll try a classic civil disobedience tactic, which is to like block a road. And knowing that like we're going to be a nuisance, it's going to be unpopular. We're sorry for the people who we annoyed with that. But given the risks, given the stakes involved, we really do need to take this more seriously. And we're showing that we're taking it seriously and we're getting people to start paying attention to this and discussing this.
Sam, going back to September 12th, when you're in the road, the 10 cops are there. Did the cops handcuff you?
Yes.
When they want to take you to the station so they can book you, there's really no alternative, right? They never say like, all right, sir, get in the car. Like the handcuffs are kind of mandatory, right?
I think it is just for their safety. And he can go into more about what going to jail is like, but I also just want to be very clear. We are totally for nonviolence and we never will turn violent. If anyone does anything violent, we will condemn them. And our true defining characteristics of StopAI is we want permanent stop to the development of AGI, and we are nonviolent. And we're trying to engage U.S. population in a peaceful protest. So our true defining characteristics are permanent stop and peaceful civil disobedience.
So you're sitting in the back of a SWAT car on 3rd Street in San Francisco near OpenAI on September 12th, and you drive down to the police station?
Yep.
And then what happened?
They took us to the local precinct. We stayed in a very cold room, the truck tank, if you will, for about 4 hours. And then they put us in another transport vehicle after about 4 hours in that room and took us to the sheriff's office, which is sort of more Mission District. And there we were fingerprinted. They sort of did all the paperwork stuff. And then they released us from that location 4 a.m. In total, we spent about 8 hours in jail after walking the road.
And that was the end, and then you just went back home?
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, I don't think it was like 4 a.m. I think it was about 2 a.m. So I think we actually spent, the whole ordeal was about 10 hours.
And most of it was just in the police station and the sheriff's office, right?
Correct.
fascinating. As an aside, you got to understand the average person, myself included, has never been handcuffed or gone to a police station, right? We just watch TV and movies, right? So this is fascinating.
Yeah, and I've had a very clean criminal record, but the point here is like, it doesn't make sense to protect purity of your criminal record if we're all going to be dead. We have to do something now. And if getting arrested is a byproduct of stopping it, then it's fine. Like, I died to stop it.
So going back to September 24th, your second protest, the cops come because you're barricading the OpenAI office with your body and you refuse to stop. So once again, the handcuffs come out, right?
Yeah. They handcuffed me. They were sitting in front of that gate for an hour. I thought they were going to leave me alone for days.
Both of these times when you're handcuffed, what does the walk to the car look like? Are you resisting? Are you walking voluntarily?
No, I mean, we're very much of the belief that when it's time to go, you go with you don't fight them on it. That's dumb. You just stand up and go in peace. We're not trying to make a statement saying we're fighting these few cops who it's their job to arrest nutcases like us. We're trying to rebel against the system, not the individual cop. I'm not trying to fight cops. Like, it's not my goal.
What time did your day start on September 24th?
It started at about 9 a.m., just getting ready. And then we finally showed up with a friend about 12. I didn't start protesting until about 1, and then got arrested around 2. And then they took me smart car to the precinct about like 2:30. So it was a fairly short day.
Now, you'd already been arrested before, so why was the whole process shorter the second time?
I think because the offense was much less severe. I was just blocking an entrance rather than a road. And they said, hey, we're just going to take you to the precinct. Actually, when they arrested me, they said, all right, we're going to book you in jail. But then when I got to the precinct, they were like, we're just going to let you out of the back of the car. And as long as you promise to not go block the same entrance like an hour from now. I was like, fine.
That is fascinating. You got to wonder what kind of conversations those cops are having with the kind of people they're letting out of the back of the car. Like, what kind of characters did they encounter where the character is going to like go back to what they were doing before? Like, that's probably like a common pattern for them.
Yeah, if you live in the U.S., if you live in a liberal city, you're very aware of the situation with cops doing catch and release types of things. Criminals.
So when the cop got you out of the back of the car, you gave the cop your word that you're not going to do it, but why didn't you go do it? I mean, according to your own logic, isn't that the kind of thing you would do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would have just gone back and sat in front of the gate if I thought that was the most optimal thing to do. But I kind of thought like maybe we can do a little bit more organizational work here and put out a longer notice ahead of time before doing the next one. And then maybe possibly we'll get just one more person to come to the next. We will for sure get at least one more person to the next.
And to add to that, like Sam's like very honest. Sam would just say like, yeah, I'm not going to be there now. He's just not going to do it. And that's also something that we're standing for here. We just want to be transparent about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And this is a case of like, yeah, sure, we wouldn't do that in an hour's time.
All right. I mean, that is consistent with what I think of as civil disobedience. So I understand. When the cop let you out of the back of the car, at that point, we're talking it was like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. on September 24th.
I started protesting around 1 and the cops showed up at 2 and they drove me to the precinct there at like 2:30. So I was out on the street at 2:30-ish.
Wow. Okay. So the whole process with the cop was like under an hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was very quick on the 24th.
Was it a single cop? How many cops were you interfacing with?
There were 2 cops on the 24th. It was a lady and an Irish guy.
So they didn't feel like they need backup because they're like, yeah, it's just one guy in front of the OpenAI office. He's not blocking traffic. We'll just take him.
And again, like they were very, polite, and I was being polite back. So I didn't feel threatened.
What's it like when you're refusing to cooperate and then they want to arrest you? What is that interaction like? Where they like, all right, well, we're going to need you to put these on. Like, what is the, or do they have to hold you down? How does the handcuffing work?
No, it's all very procedural. Like, they first offer to just give you a citation if you're willing to get up and do your protest in a way that's not blocking traffic or flow of pedestrians. You're not willing to do that, then they say, okay, we're going to give you another warning. Sometimes they don't give you that second warning, but then if you refuse warnings, then they say, okay, we're now going to arrest you. And at that point, they just tell you to either stand up. They stand you up either semi-forcibly or have you stand up on your own. And then they just tell you to turn around and they put the handcuffs on you. And by forcibly, I mean, like, they're very gentle. They're not like manhandling.
If you were to try to resist, I guess you never did, but at that point, does the taser come out? Do you happen to know what they do?
Again, like, I'm not trying to fight cops here. It's not the goal. I'm fully, and we as an organization are all about just going in peace when the time comes. That's not our goal. If someone got tased in StopAI, it was because they're being an idiot and they're not going in peace when the time comes to get arrested.
Okay, so that was all a week ago. What's next? What's the next step?
The next step is we're going to do a repeated barricade sit-in front of the same location, OpenAI's office at 575 4th Street on October 21st at 12 p.m. noon. And anyone who wants to come is welcome to. You don't have to actually get arrested. You'll most likely be given a citation if you sit in front of the gate and actually block traffic. Want to get arrested, and I actually encourage you to, just out of moral stance, you do not have to get arrested. And just block the gate with us on the 21st.
Is there any chance that the cops will have a different attitude and they'll be like, you know what, we are going to review video footage and we actually are going to cite and even charge with a misdemeanor anybody who is blocking the gate at any time?
That is very possible. You know, we're dealing with unknowns here, so that can happen. And, you know, it's very important to tell people and just be honest and transparent with people so we're not, you know, subjecting them to some level of risk they're not okay with. That being said, personally, I think getting arrested is nothing if we're all going to die. And I think anyone doesn't believe that is crazy. But I'm not trying to lure people into getting arrested. Know for certain that there is a chance you could get a misdemeanor.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco cops, as you say, are known for being quite gentle, right, relative to cops in other cities. So it does seem likely that they're going to give everybody the opportunity to kind of scatter and stop blocking the gate, and they're only going to arrest the hardcore people like you who insist on following through with the civil disobedience. Is that a good guess?
I think that's spot on. Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who wants to join your protest, who they want to take it even farther than you, and they're like, you know what, I do want to resist when the cops arrest me? What would you say to that person?
Well, we're trying to do training to prevent that from happening. And in general, I can kind of get the sense from someone that they would do that prior. Like I said, if that does happen, it's because that person failed to listen to our directions.
So Monday, October 21st at noon, in front of the same OpenAI office that you went to the second time on September 24th, correct?
Correct.
This
is when we're doing our next barricade.
Yeah, this next barricade that you're planning, how many RSVPs have you got so far?
Basically one.
Is it just yourself or an additional plus one?
No, it's me plus another person for this next event.
Who's the other person?
His name is Guido Reichstatter, I think.
Cool. Okay, yeah, I've seen him on Twitter. He does seem supportive of what you guys are doing. So you've got your October 21st protest. You've got all these charges getting racked up. You've got all these court dates coming. Presumably, you're going to eventually get more and more jail time. So you're basically creating a very high probability situation that you're going to be in jail in a couple of months?
Correct. Yeah. So after doing this next barricade on October 21st at 12 p.m., once we're released from doing that barricade, we will then go continue to block the gate. And then we'll be arrested and probably taken back to the precinct, be released, get out, do it again. And we're going to continue doing it until we're held on remand, which basically just means you're held in jail until the trial date. And then once the trial comes, we then plan to plead the necessity.
If you're held in remand, can you get out on bail?
California's cashless bail system, I think the whole point of being held on remand is that they say, like, I'm going to hold you until the trial date. I might be wrong.
If the judge hears that this is your plan, then even if there's only like 2 misdemeanors, don't you think the judge will be like, well, let me skip to the end and give you the jail time now?
Well, that's if you lose the necessity defense. If that's the case, then to be honest, that's the risk we're willing to take.
Are you okay with me publishing a podcast saying that you plan to repeat this offense again and again? Because couldn't this be used as evidence against you in your trial?
No, we're going to announce it. By the time this is released, we'll already have announced that we plan to do the repeated sit-ins starting first. So you releasing a podcast is not an issue.
Let's think a little bigger. Let's say a couple months pass and you're sitting in jail for 6 months. What do you hope happens next?
Hope we're let out and we continue in barricades, and the tension generated from the trials, and I hope a lot of people repeat what we do on their own. I sort of do like an anarchistic, decentralized organizational structure where people just decide actions themselves.
So we got these dictatorial institutions, these AI companies with some leaders on top, like Sam Altman, and there's people supporting them. So there are kind of AI capability researchers. There are also AI safety researchers, frankly, who, while meaning well, are in fact kind of like putting like a safety sticker on things, kind of making it look like the company's still serious about safety. I think it's time for people to just admit that where this company is heading for and where other companies are heading for is just going to increasingly destabilize our society until it's actually going to cause it a catastrophe or worse. That's what we're headed for. And if you're going to take part in that, you're morally culpable. And this is one of the things that I think we want to target here is that these corporations need to be restricted. People leaving from the inside, people whistleblowing from the inside, and also more public pressure from the outside, more regulation, more lawsuits, more people targeting the various harms that these companies are already causing.
Here's what I'm wondering about your strategy. Why not take an incremental step by doing protests? Like, it seems like, let me ask you it this way. If there were a lot of Pause AI protests happening, if a typical Pause AI protest was like 20,000 people in the streets, and you guys came in and you said, you know what, we got to kick it up a notch. We got to start getting arrested. We got to start filling up the jails. We got to do real civil disobedience. I'd be like, okay, yeah, let's ratchet it up. Sure. But the Pause AI protests, the flagship Pause AI protests are only like 40 people, right? So why not first focus on getting 10,000 people in the streets legally? And then if the message still isn't received, then you take it up a notch, right? Isn't that a more natural progression?
Because we don't have time. That's the problem here. We have extremely short timelines. I helped organize first protests in front of OpenAI. I've been in San Francisco now for 4 months, and I asked a lot of normal people, you know who Pause AI is? And no one does, even though Pause AI had NBC cameras at their last protest. And if you ask who are Black Lives Matter, or who is pro-Palestine, or if you're in the UK, who's Just Stop Oil, those normal people will be able to tell you who those groups are because those groups do civil disobedience.
But what
and
if,
it would
what
be
if you
ideal
ask them,
to start with
what if you
a
ask them who is
large...
StopAI?
Yeah, I mean, not right now, because we're tiny.
We haven't had enough time to build that up yet. Like it is ideal to start with a large traditional protest base and build up to civil disobedience. We just don't have time. And I think we can get to where we want to be by skipping the protest step. And we actually have done an all protest. We did one in front of Microsoft's headquarters in Seattle, but it was three people.
Let me see if I can follow your logic.
Cheat code.
You're basically saying, hey, look, more people know about Black Lives Matter and Just Stop Oil than about Pause AI. Well, Black Lives Matter and Just Stop Oil, they sometimes use illegal tactics like blocking traffic. So that makes me want to use illegal tactics. But hold on a second. Isn't the difference between Pause AI and those other protests, isn't it also a difference that those other protests have way more people? Maybe you should focus on that difference.
Right, but you should take a look at how those groups started. So if you look at, for example, Extinction Rebellion and like how Just Stop Oil kind of flowed out of that, it was, admittedly, Extinction Rebellion was already a larger movement, but the people coming out of that were relatively small. They were just saying like, yeah, guys, we're being too weak about this. We need to actually take actions in line with what we care about, in line with that there's this kind of mass extinction that's being caused by these companies. So we're going to take these actions. So of course that's going to start out small, and like that's happened in other places as well. Often these things start at kind of local grassroots level with a few people kind of working together. And then we're on podcasts like yours and like reading interviews and having those conversations until more people join. So it's just part of the process. I mean, part of me would like what you're saying to be the case, but I don't quite think it works that way.
I wish it was the case. I truly do wish it was the case that we had time to build up traditional protests. We just don't. That's the issue. If there's a chance that AGI could be here within 3 years or a year even, we have to do everything we possibly can now to stop that with the small number of people we have.
If you get to the point where you consistently have 10 people going to your protests and getting arrested because they're following through the civil disobedience, and it could even be 10 new people each time because maybe the police starts getting really strict with them. So you kind of need 10 new fresh protesters each time to get arrested and keep the funnel going. If you get to that point, do you feel like the impact is going to be really big, or it's still barely going to move the needle at that point and you need it to be like 100,000 people? What's your sense?
If we can build up a situation like you're describing, and we can actually block indefinitely every entrance at one AI company like OpenAI, that would be huge. I think that would be international news coverage. That would be a fantastic source of advertising for us. And then we just get more people and then we may be able to attain our end goal of blocking every single entrance at every AI company. And that's an instrumental way we could actually stop the development of AGI, including the data centers. Like, obviously, if you don't block the data centers, people just work. Oh, you have to block the data centers too.
How do you decide to always target OpenAI instead of Meta or Anthropic or NVIDIA?
We're just starting with one company, and this happened with a company that's leading, quote unquote. So we're setting an example.
What is success for you? What are your demands to stop all of this barricading?
The demand is to permanently ban the development of human-level AI, also known as artificial general intelligence, or AGI. I just want to note that Remmelt has an issue with term human-level AI for AI ethics reasons, but we're trying to permanently ban development of AGI in every country. We can get into sort of the details of flop limits. Our plan or goal is to engage 3.5% of the U.S. population in peaceful protests, and then every country after that.
Are you demanding to roll back any existing AI, such as GPT-4, or what existing progress would you allow us to keep?
So this is sort of getting into the flock limits discussion. Basically, we want to permanently destroy anything with capabilities equivalent to or exceeding GPT-4. So that's 10 to the 25 flocks, and then transition to a 10 to the 12 flock limit, which is roughly in capabilities equivalent to IBM Watson in 2011. A lot of people think that's a drastic drop, but we want that because if you just qubit at 10 to the 25, very soon you're going to get to a point where we could build something general purpose or AGI with that block cap.
Okay, so if I just want to ask a question to help me with like a plumbing issue or, a doctor's consultation or a legal question, you're saying I should have to go back to GPT 3.5 basically?
No, a lot less than GPT 3.5. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. Like, we want to permanently ban the development of anything that's used more than 10 to the 25 blocks for training, but to run that actual model, it takes a lot less compute than that. Like, most of the compute is taken up in the training process. Actually running something like GPT-4 doesn't take that much compute, but training more powerful models, that's where all the compute is. The more important thing is to prevent training of larger models. It's less important right now that we scrape the internet for every copy of GPT-4. It's more important that we just stop the development of something more powerful.
And just to add to that, we are actually against the use of deepfake technologies, in the sense that many of these models are being used to spread disinformation and deepfakes. And that is on the path of disrupting coordination in society, kind of giving this technology influence that we would not want to kind of hand over to kind of tools that could be misused by corporations and other actors. So this is also part of it. We're being quite strict here. We're not saying okay, if people, we understand that something like GPT-4 can be nice to play around with. Image generators can be fun to play around with. But we're just we're already seeing a bunch of problems with these technologies. And I think we should just set the safety margin the way it should be set for something that could potentially at some point cause an extinction. So we're just saying sorry guys, we understand that you like playing around with this technology. We know that you get it, that you enjoy it. But unfortunately, we just need to be mature about this. And this is not going to work out the way things are heading right now.
Do you see a distinction between blocking traffic versus barricading an AI company's office? Because when you barricade an AI company's office, you're implementing your policy agenda in a vigilante way, right? But you're getting what you want. You're disrupting AI development. But when you block traffic, you are creating problems for other members of society that are unrelated to your policy goal, right? So do you see a distinction there?
So there is a big distinction, and I truly wish we didn't have to block traffic, and we won't if we don't absolutely have to in the future. But blocking traffic actually does have a benefit in that it does raise awareness, and that is our end goal, or that's one of our instrumental goals to achieve our end goal, or terminal goal, if you will. If we need it. This is really an advertising issue. The general public, shown in polls, actually wants a stop. 63% of Americans want regulators to permanently ban AI superintelligence. So our issue is less of an education issue and more of an advertising issue. We need forms of advertisement to get out to the general public and show them, hey, we exist. If you're mad about AI, come protest with us. So blocking roads is a really good form of advertisement.
I'll just give you my 2 cents. I'll tell you where I stand. I think civil disobedience can be a good tactic and it can be a moral tactic. I do support what Martin Luther King did and what Gandhi did. And I think that when you guys are barricading OpenAI's office without creating violence and without creating harm other than the harm that you specifically want to create, which is, harm to people who are benefiting from OpenAI's existence, when you think that OpenAI should be illegal, that's the type of harm that's like classic civil disobedience, right? Like when African Americans went into a diner and they weren't supposed to be served, but they just insisted on getting served. You could argue, well, they're harming the white people around them who don't want them to be served, but that's their goal, right? So the type of harm is consistent with the policy goal. I have a lot of respect for that tactic. My only issue is that I think the trade-offs right now look unattractive. I just don't think you're going to get that much impact of implementing your policy goal just to do these one-off civil disobedience, getting yourself arrested when it's a small number of people. I think if you spend the same energy doing Pause AI protests, you'll have a lot more time out of jail so you can keep helping with the protests, and you'll end up having a bigger net impact for now.
The problem is the Pause AI protests don't get attention and they don't produce results. And I would love it if we had time to do what the civil rights movement did and take things slow and just do bad things to bad people. We don't have time. We have to do whatever will achieve the greatest change in the shortest period of time. First of all, doing bad things to bad people, like blocking entrances, is just a guaranteed good thing all around because it's the word out there. It also may be necessary to step things up and do things like walking roads, even though it will piss people off, but it will get the attention out there that we need to achieve a stop in a very short period of time, because we have to get the general public aware of us existing now.
Okay, I've said my piece that I don't think blocking traffic is a good way to get your message across, and I don't feel good about the ROI of doing the other types of protests, like the
Sure.
barricading, but I have a lot more respect for the barricading. So I've said my piece. So with that, I want to give you guys the last word. You can go ahead and make your pitch to the viewers and use my platform to recruit if you want, as long as you can convince the viewers. So go for it.
Thanks, Duran. Yeah, we're going to have another barricade protest here on October 21st in front of OpenAI, 575 Quarter Street at 12 p.m. Anyone who wants to come is welcome to join. Just know there is a risk that you could get arrested and charged with a misdemeanor. Just know that risk is there. We also want people to know that your criminal record doesn't matter if we're all dead. And we could be dead here very soon or hand over control, which would ensure our future extinction, and that could happen very shortly. If you want to help, but you're not going to protest, you can help us by donating or doing sort of other things that we need done. And to know what those things are and to sign up to do them, you can go to www.stopai.info and fill out the join form and select which actions you want to help us take that aren't actually going to protests. We have a donate page, which we could really use help with. There's a GoFundMe and some other ways to donate on there. You can follow us on all socials at StopAI_info. We're mostly on X at the moment. That's about it. Oh, we're also going to be doing a bi-weekly whereby meetings where you can come talk about how you want to help us and sort of what our plan is to plan the next action.
Yeah, and for those people who cannot join a protest right now, like I happen to be in a situation like that, there are other ways you can contribute. I mean, for one, there are other communities besides StopAI, Pause AI, trying to restrict these AI companies. I'm happy to give pointers there. But for example, we're going to run a project at a safety camp, which is a program that I also run, to just start a video ad campaign, which supports the protests, where people just say, like, giving their personal reasons why they think AI needs to be stopped. So that's, you can, for example, join the work on the video campaign. Particularly, we need editors, we need people who are good at kind of reaching out to celebrities, things like that. You can even decide to submit your own project to AI Safety Camp. If you think there's some other way to restrict AI corporations, if you agree with Liron, but you think, hey, there's some other way to go about this. The way I'm looking at this, we need many different communities approaching this from different angles and trying to restrict these AI corporations from different angles, making it harder for those AI corporations to kind of maneuver around and keep trying to find ways to extract profit and harm people. So that's another option. You can join us with the video ad campaigning work, or you can even submit your own project at AI Safety Camp, which is a separate organization I co-run.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Here on Doom Debates, I often give people respect when they show that they have the courage and conviction to debate their view. And Sam, you've proven that you have the courage and conviction to get arrested and go to jail for your view. So I got to say, that is impressive. I've said which parts I agree and disagree with, right? I don't agree 100%, but I got to respect a guy who's shown the courage of his convictions. So it's been a pleasure to have you guys on, and I wish you guys the best with your movement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leon, for having us.